Well, thank you so much, Billy, for the kind introduction, and thank you all for the kind introduction as well. My name is Captain Retired Don Halfaker, as Billy said. I'm the CEO of a company called Halfaker and Associates, a small veteran-owned business, and also the president of the board of directors of Wounded Warrior Project, of which a couple of my colleagues are here. So thank you so much, John Molino and Ron Drock, for coming. It's truly a pleasure to be here, and I definitely would like to thank Corporate Immersion and Easter Seals for starting this important conversation. Well, I don't know that we're starting the conversation, but continuing the conversation on the critical role that employers can play in enhancing employment opportunities for our nation's veterans. I feel extremely lucky to be a part of so many organizations that are out there, the VA, a lot of nonprofit organizations that are advocates on behalf of our veterans and wounded warriors and have programs and services to kind of help with this transition. Reflecting on my journey and hearing the struggles of fellow veterans has really reaffirmed my belief that finding meaningful employment is a powerful aspect of a transitioning veteran's journey. But despite all of our best efforts, many veterans still struggle to find meaningful employment. I'm honored to be able to share my story today with all of you and talk about my experiences as a soldier, a veteran, a wounded warrior, and now an employer. And hopefully we'll set the stage for all the great discussions we're going to be having throughout the day and the various panels to talk about and highlight the key role that employers play in this transition. My story really starts when I graduated from West Point in June of 2001. About 4 months after I graduated and was commissioned as a second lieutenant, 9/11 happened. I'm sure all of you still remember that day, remember what you were doing. I happened to be at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, lovely place. Some of you may have had the pleasure of serving there. Cool. As a young officer getting ready to lead a platoon and going through my officer basic course there, when 9/11 happened, everything really changed overnight, as you all remember. And, we knew what was next. We had been attacked on our own soil, and, we were probably going to go to war. I deployed to Iraq in February of 2004 with the 4th Platoon, 293rd Military Police Company in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom 2. I was a platoon leader in charge of 33 soldiers, and my platoon was detached from my company, and we were assigned to live and work in a provincial police station in the province of Diyala in the city of Bakuba, which is about 35 kilometers northeast of Baghdad. We had a very diverse mission over there. Mainly we were training the Iraqi police, performing police operations, just kind of what you would think of police doing around here. We ran a prison. We did reconnaissance and surveillance patrols, both mounted and dismounted. We did force protection of the police station itself, which, as you all remember, was and is still high priority targets. We also ran the quick response force out of the police station to respond to different incidents and insurgent activity in the area. We were really busy over there, and I really loved what I was doing. I enjoyed leading soldiers and fighting to protect the American ideals and our way of life. On June 19th, 2004, around 01 in the morning, I was getting ready to go on a patrol mission, not knowing that mission would be my last. During the patrol, about 03:30, we came around a corner and turned right into an ambush. The insurgents hit us with small arms fire and rocket-propelled grenades, and one of those RPGs came through the front of my Humvee, tore down the passenger side of the vehicle, which was my side. It drilled through my right shoulder and exploded right next to my head. I was knocked over to the side, and I remember all my senses on overload, blinded by the flash, deafened by the sound, and choked up by the smoke. I looked up and saw my squad leader slumped over in front of me. And I guess, my training took over, or I was, I don't know what happened, but I remember kind of coming back up, sitting back up, and then my driver was looking back at me. We made eye contact, and the only thing I could think was, just get the hell out of the kill zone, and that's what I yelled. He did. He saved my life, and he saved my squad leader's life. And the last thing I remember from my tour in Iraq was the feeling of the wind from the medevac, the helicopter blades, as we ascended up in the air. My fate to me, unknown at that time. After all that, and that fight, little did I know that the real fight and journey would begin about 2 weeks after my injury, when I awoke from a coma at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. I distinctly remember the moment when I first woke up, struggling to figure out where I was and what was going on. I saw my parents' faces and thought, how the hell did my parents get to Iraq? Leave it to them to find a way. But I had woken up in the moment I had left. I still thought, I was in Iraq and sort of struggled to understand what was going on. They calmed me down, told me I was in Washington, D.C., and in my delirious state, I said, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? I'm fine. I want to get back to my platoon. That's just kind of the mindset that I was in. And then I saw the look on my dad's face, and then he explained what had happened and told me that I had lost my arm. I remember, just kind of laying there and turning my eyes and looking to the right side and seeing a white bandage where my arm used to be. And that moment really kind of hit me as hard as the RPG did, and, knowing that my life had changed. So at 24 years old, I spent my 25th birthday in a hospital thinking that my life was over. I didn't think I would be able to be of any use, have a job, be a mother, a wife. I thought life was over. Like many wounded warriors and some of our returning veterans, I knew I was extremely lucky to be alive, but waking up to the reality of having lost my arm, among other serious injuries, I didn't really know that I wanted to be alive. This began a succession of loss for me. My life had changed. I was devastated and really struggled to come to terms with my new reality. I hadn't just lost an arm. I had lost my career, my sense of purpose, and felt like I had lost my identity. Embraced by my family and friends and the clinicians at Walter Reed, I began the rehab process. It was not easy. Everything I did was riddled with self-doubt, and I felt alone. But after I was out of the ICU, started to feel a little bit better, gain a little bit more strength, they sent me down to the PT clinic, physical therapy clinic, where I would start my physical therapy. That was on the 3rd floor, and when I went down there, I actually had the privilege of meeting some other wounded warriors. And I remember walking into that, not walking, but it sort of wheeled into the clinic and seeing, a couple wounded warriors. One was actually, he had just gotten his legs. He was standing up for the first time. And I got to watch his kids cheer him on, say, "Go, Daddy, go," as he took his first steps with his prosthetic legs. Another warrior I met was Sergeant Danielle Green. Danielle, really represented, kind of everything that I thought I had lost. I met Danielle, and, she immediately engaged me, said, "Hey, how's it going?" She was upbeat, she was happy, and she was working out. She was like lifting weights, and then she was doing some running on the treadmill, and I'm like, what is this woman doing? And for those of you that don't know Danielle or her story, Danielle was also an MP. She was a Notre Dame basketball star, and she also got hit by an RPG, losing her left arm, which was her dominant arm, and her shooting arm. I distinctly remember meeting Danielle, and the thing that she said to me, she after I was down there, watched her work out, and she said, "Yeah, I'm training for this race," and I'm like, "You're missing an arm. How are you going to run a race?" And then she talked about, "Well, I'm getting ready to get out of here." She was kind of, she said, "I need to get me a job." That's what Danielle said. It was really through watching her and her recovery process that gave me something that I couldn't really give myself, perspective, motivation, strength. And she really empowered me through her own courage and determination to persevere and actually focus on what I had versus what I had lost. As I started to accept my new reality, I began to forge a new path for myself. But like many transitioning veterans and warriors, I joined the military right after high school, or went to West Point, and struggled to really find my identity outside of the military. Just sitting down to craft my resume was difficult, as the military jargon was so ingrained in my speech, but none of it would make sense to an HR professional. Furthermore, how would I communicate the relevancy of the specialized training I had received in the military and all the leadership skills I had developed? With only 1% of Americans serving in the military, it was becoming increasingly obvious to me that I had no idea how to communicate what I could offer to the 99% that I was about to join. Also, with my obvious wounds from the war, would employers simply view me as damaged goods? I remember when I was preparing to go in for interviews, I got a prosthetic that obviously I don't wear now, but I wouldn't go anywhere without the prosthetic, and I remember trying to think maybe I can disguise and show that I'm not missing an arm, and that way they wouldn't really think that I was different or damaged. Furthermore, the media had highlighted, a lot of stories about veterans coming back with serious post-traumatic stress and anger issues, and it made me wonder, would employers view me as a liability on top of my injuries? Would I be able to perform at the level employers expected, given that I was still kind of struggling to adapt, to my new reality and doing tasks of daily living just with one arm? But I began interviewing for jobs in the Washington, D.C. area, and initially nothing really seemed to be a fit. I had interned on Capitol Hill when I was recovering, and I spent just enough time there to know that I wanted nothing to do with politics. No offense to anybody here. But as I interviewed, I would walk into the different companies, and though they were all great, reputable firms with good people that cared, I felt like it was the same old thing everywhere I went. Coming from the intensity of combat, I could not relate to corporate culture. Many of my classmates, fellow officers, friends, and soldiers that I had led were still at war. Employers did not seem to understand or be focused on this. There was no sense of awareness that we were in a two-front war. I wanted to use my recent experience to make a difference, and I wanted to find a way that I could still feel a part of that fight. I wanted to surround myself with people that understood what I had been through and what our service members were going through, and I wanted to continue to serve. Well, they say necessity breeds innovation, so with my need and desire to continue to be part of the fight, I decided to, rather than join another company, to start my own. So knowing just enough to be dangerous, as is true with most junior officers, I launched. I had never been a consultant, and I started a consulting firm. So only a second lieutenant would do that, or first lieutenant. I launched Halfaker and Associates in 2006. At first, it was just me, so I was literally an army of one. Today, the company employs over 100 employees and provides professional services and technology solutions to government organizations worldwide. Though we have accomplished a lot in 7 years, the best part about the company is it's really given me the opportunity to continue my service and regain my sense of purpose. It also allows me to support and advocate for issues that I'm passionate about, such as helping wounded warriors who struggle to make the transition that I had to make, and also helping veterans separate and actually find employment. Over 65% of our workforce at Halfaker is comprised of veterans and warriors, and now that I'm on the employer side, I can use my experiences to help make that transition a little bit easier. But it's still not an easy one. Fairly recently, I came across a Marine who had came to me as a wounded warrior through my network. He was looking for a job. He had come back. This was about probably a year and a half ago. He had come back from Iraq, was fighting over there, and had gotten cancer. And the doctors linked the cancer to the burning of the chemicals in the trash over in Iraq. And so he was undergoing chemotherapy, and while he was undergoing his treatments, he was focusing on his transition out of the military. So this young Marine drove from Mechanicsville, Maryland, to our offices in Arlington, Virginia. He came in and he presented his resume, and I sat down with him. And his resume had his name, his address. It said that he was, it had his rank and that he was a Marine. And then it had that he was 10% preference, so he was disabled, so he got a 10% preference. And then it had a list of his awards. That was all that was on his resume. I asked him, what did you want to, what are you looking to do? What are you interested in? And he said, ma'am, I'm a Marine. I'll do whatever you want to do. Or, excuse me, I'll do whatever you want me to do. That's absolutely a true story. That's exactly what he said to me. Talking with him, something really clicked at that time. And I was really torn because I wanted to give this young man a job just because what he had been through. And, I could tell he had all the characteristics sort of representative of many veterans, the leadership, adaptability, resiliency, focus on mission accomplishment, teamwork, determination, all characteristics that I look for in employees. But he had no idea what opportunities were out there and what he wanted to do. So rather than hand him a job, and Lisa mentioned this in her talk, I felt it was more important to link him up with some of the organizations that could help him. They could provide mentorship, training, job counseling, to help him find the best opportunity. He didn't need a handout, but he did need support from organizations that provide these services. And for me as an employer, it was really important for me to recognize that it's not about just handing a job, it's about empowering our veterans to find the right opportunity that will ultimately give them that renewed sense of purpose in a career. Employers play a huge role in helping our transitioning veterans, and there are many things that companies and organizations can do and are doing to facilitate a successful transition. And I look forward to continuing the discussion later today and hearing what all of our panelists have to say on how we can recruit, retain our nation's most valuable and most precious resource, our veterans and our warriors. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here and share my story. Thank you so much to all of you who are invested in ensuring our veterans and warriors have the opportunity to find meaningful employment. So enjoy the rest of the day, and thanks for having me.